welcome back to
The Wonderful, Beautiful Podcast!
The Wonderful, Beautiful Podcast. Yeah. I am gonna give you some ASMR right now. Give you some ASMR right now. This is the sound of my spearmint tea with a bunch of ice. It contains honey, almond milk, almond milk. What am I doing? And spearmint tea for my hormones. Yes. Do you guys want to hear me swallow? I'm gonna swallow. Are you ready? Did you hear that? Was that absolutely disgusting and uncalled for? I am not sorry. Okay, so for today's podcast, there has been like a question I would get in a Q&A, which I actually got like way before. But it's a question that intrigued me, and I was like very excited, or like I really wanted to answer it, but I felt like I wasn't supposed to answer it in like just a portion of video. I feel like it should be like a dedicated video because it's such a lesson. Like it's an actual like lecture, if I might say. Like it's not something that I can just like explain quickly. It's like a whole thing. But basically, the question that they asked me was, there's a freaking dog barking. I swear, I've had so much interruptions today. Before we even start with the question, is that like I filmed like this hosting thingy, and there was like construction the entire time. So like I had to film it for like what, like 2 hours or an hour? Like, wait, I don't know. Maybe it's even 3 hours. Who knows? But if you can hear the dog, hopefully that doesn't bother you. Maybe you also have a dog and the barking doesn't bother you. It does bother me though. It's not what there's nothing I can do, okay? Animal cruelty is not an option. I love animals. But yeah, I've been doing so much talking today. I'm filming 3 videos today. And I've been doing so much talking, yet I have not had a single conversation today. That sounds so sad. Oh wait, that's a lie. I've had a conversation with my jaw bells. Ah, wait. Ew, straight couples. Boo. Anyways, what was I gonna talk about? Oh yeah, okay. So the question that was asked to me was, do you think that it's okay for trans women to go into beauty pageants? Specifically beauty pageants like Miss Universe. That's what they were talking about, because at that time that they asked me that was a relevant topic, and obviously I make everything late, and I'm only talking about this now. And it was like, at first when I read it, I kind of got annoyed, because like, is this still a question that people ask? Because like I don't know, like for some reason I always assume that the people who follow me or the people who watch me already kind of like know everything I'm about to say. So sometimes I kind of like hold back on things I say because like, oh, everybody knows that, Angel, you don't have to say that anymore. But sometimes it turns out that there are some people who don't know the things I've been talking about, and it just makes me really happy because like, wow, I'm actually contributing to this world. That's exciting. But yeah, I did assume that everybody already knew the answer to that question. But turns out some people still don't know, and absolutely there was no shame to that, even though my initial reaction was like I was annoyed. But like, it's just that I don't know, because like, why is this still a question? And it obviously sucks that I have to make a video about this. Like, it's not normalized. It sucks that I have to, like super explain this and expound on this and educate people on this, because nobody's doing it. And it's not, I mean, probably some people are doing it, but it's not something that is that well known yet. It's not like your ABCs. It's not taught to everybody. But the question is, I haven't even said the question. Oh wait, I already did say the question. What the heck? I'm sorry, like my mind is in scrambles. But my answer to that question is yes. I think they should be free to join beauty pageants if they want to. And I wish I had like a guest here to, I know, like maybe I wish like Cyrene was here. If you guys if you guys remember her, she was in my channel a lot of times, like in the early, like before the pandemic started. But it's very difficult to, as I said, I keep saying it on every single podcast, but it's very difficult to find guests or for me to actually be allowed to see anyone outside of my household because my parents is strict. So, and I also like don't want to have to go through the stress of having to ask permission to go out or something. Like it's tiring. It's not for me. So I just kind of like give up and just like not really, make an effort to go out anymore. But yeah, anyways, I have said so many things that are not even related to this. But I do want to start out by saying I'm not even starting anymore. I'm like already like 5 minutes in. But like I do want to start out by saying that there is no shame if if you don't know the answer to this question, or if you don't have an answer, if you're still confused about what your answer should be to that specific question, or if you don't know the difference between gender and sex and sexuality, it's okay. Because honestly, I only learned it in depth like this year. So even though obviously I advocate for queer rights and gay rights and trans rights and everything LGBTQIA plus, I advocate for it. I support it. I love them. They're great. I hope that they get all of the rights that they deserve. So yeah, like even though you can support something without being extremely full on knowledgeable about it, but it does very much help to be knowledgeable about it. And so yeah, it's okay. We're all like always learning and stuff. And I did already have an idea of what it was, but it's the first time that I actually received like formal education on it, because the subject of gender and multiculturalism is actually tackled in the course that I'm taking for college. So I'm not sure if that's something that is tackled throughout every single course. I hope that it is. I wish that it was a general subject and it was actually taught in high school or in senior high school. I wish that it was something that, is really part of the curriculum. And I hope that it's something that's also tackled in science subjects and whatever subjects, and it's not just in liberal arts subjects. But I am in a liberal arts course, so that's why I have a subject on it. So the reason why I think that people would ask questions like should trans women be in Miss Universe, or the reason why I think that there are people who are transphobic or homophobic and anything that's like queer phobic, is because most of those people don't even know the difference between gender and sex or sexuality. Sometimes if you ask somebody who's homophobic or somebody who doesn't support gay rights, the first thing you should ask them, do you even know what the difference is between gender and sex? Because a lot of the time they have no idea what it actually is. So this is the way that it was taught to me. Obviously it was just like one course, or like one class. No, not one class. It was like one entire course that I was obviously graded in and stuff. But I first want to talk about what is sex. Okay, sex. We're not talking about sexual intercourse. That is different. That is actually like sex. Insert things in the things. That's different. But sex is your biological parts. So your sex can be female or male or intersex. Wow, what is intersex, Angel? Obviously, let's start with the female and male. Obviously, you already know what a female is. A female has, ovaries and all that stuff. Like, you know what the parts are for a female. You also know the secondary sex characteristics. That's why it's called sex characteristics, because it is characteristics that comes with being the sex of female. So there's like boobies. Sometimes there's small boobies. Sometimes there's big boobies. Sometimes there's no boobies at all, but you're still a female. There's also, widening of hips and all that stuff. The things that you've already learned in like grade school or in high school. So that's sex. That's the first So there's female. And then the next one is male. So if you have a pee-pee, all that stuff. I don't even know if I'm allowed to be saying this on YouTube, but hopefully I am. I'll just say a wee-wee. I don't know if that's a thing, but you already know what the parts are for a male. So that's usually what you would put in, like, you know, your when you're filling up forms. There's female, there's male, whatever. So yeah, that's the males. That's usually, you know, you already know what a male is. The intersex is another kind of sex that usually isn't tackled. So there are obviously you can see it from the word itself, intersex. There are parts of a person that is female. Maybe there's like, I don't really know the exact science of it, but they are born with both female and male parts. And you're probably wondering, oh, like, I don't even see any intersex people. That's not real. There are no intersex people. Honestly, you've probably already encountered an intersex person, but it's just not obvious that they're intersex. Sometimes they don't even know that they're intersex because it's not something that, that you can externally see. Also, at the same time, there is some very cruel things that have happened to intersex people. There's this thing called intersex surgery on babies. So when a baby is first born and the doctors find out, or their parents find out, that this baby is an intersex baby, they go put them through intersex surgery, which will basically force or surgically, make their parts fit the binary either female or male parts. Obviously, that's not okay. Morality, ethics wise, a person should be able to be already knowledgeable enough before you do like that kind of surgery to them. There are some people who wish that they were at least turned into a female, or they were turned into a male, or they wanted to keep their intersex parts. But yeah, that is something that happens. And what happens is there's like an erasure of intersex people. Intersex people don't know that they are intersex, or they never knew that they were, but they're now fitting into the binary. When I say binary, it means you're either male or female. Next, okay, so the only thing you have to remember is sex is about the physical, biological parts that you have. Next, we're going to talk about gender. So this is why gender is completely different. Gender is something that is socially constructed. Let's expound what socially constructed means. You know how I always joke about this is a social construct and this is a social construct. What is an example of a social construct? A social construct is that all girls should belong in the kitchen and they shouldn't work. Or girls should be submissive to men, or girls belong to, they're supposed to be doing art, they don't belong to science fields. What else? Boys are not allowed to show emotions. Boys are supposed to be strong. Boys are supposed to be the man. They're supposed to be a man of the family. The father should be the one who's bringing the money, bringing the bacon, those are social constructs. The pee-pee has nothing to do, it has nothing to do with your ability to emote. The pee-pee has nothing to do with your ability to be a career or breadwinner of the family. Absolutely nothing to do with it. Do you use your pee-pee to make money? I mean, maybe you can, but like a direct relationship with it has nothing. No relationship. It's only society. It's society that's constructing it. It's society that's conditioning those roles. It's basically gender roles. So that's what I mean by gender is something that is socially constructed. Gender is a spectrum, right? When I say spectrum, I feel like I don't know why I'm like expounding on every single term I'm using, but I really want to make sure that everybody's getting, the point of it. So think of a line, from there's like 0 and then there's until -10 and then there's +10. Obviously there's no actual numerical value to this, but just imagine like that's what a spectrum is, So you can either be extremely feminine extremely feminine or extremely masculine. You can be in between those. You can be a little bit more feminine but still have some masculine. You can also be a little bit more masculine but still have some feminine. Because I'm going to relate it to astrology, there will always be feminine and masculine energies, okay? So what happens when homophobia or, very close-minded things about gender happens is feminine is they equate femininity to being a female. They also equate masculinity to being a male. Maybe it's because of the etymology of it, or the things that they decide to put terms into. But gender is the femininity or masculinity of a person. So it's wrong. It's problematic. I say it's problematic to associate a body part to femininity or masculinity, because what happens to intersex people? Like it becomes the erasure of intersex people becomes more prominent that way. Where do intersex people belong to? So I want to say that being a female does not mean you necessarily have to be feminine. Being a male does not mean you necessarily have to be masculine. Being an intersex doesn't mean you have to be right in the middle of it. So for example, let's go back to the question of, should trans women be able to go to Miss Universe? Being a woman has nothing to do with your parts, okay? Your parts, you already know what I mean by parts, okay? Your parts have nothing to do with who you should be, what role you're supposed to play in society. That's not how it's supposed to go. Because can you imagine if our parts were controlled by our roles in society? That means brunette people, you have to work in humanities. Blonde people, you get to work in STEM. Like, it doesn't make any sense to assign people with peepees, you're supposed to be construction workers. Literally, no relationship. Gender is a masculinity or femininity of a person. It is something that is socially constructed, while being a female, a male, your sex, being intersex, is just plainly your biological parts. Has nothing to do with society or gender or whatever. So, if a woman, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter what parts you have. It doesn't matter what your sex is, because if you want to be feminine, you can be feminine. If you identify as a woman, then you're a woman. If you identify as a man, then you're a man. And a lot of people would argue that, oh, okay, so I can identify as a llama because I believe I'm a llama. Well, being a llama is something that you can scientifically prove. I can prove that you're not a llama because you are born with a human body. And having, again, like, like if you think about it, femininity and masculinity, they're like completely intangible things. You can't hold masculinity. You can't, it's not something that, that has anything to do biologically. You're the only, homophobic people or people who like to condone gender roles are the only ones who made that relationship. And I understand that that's everything that your parents have taught you. Pink is for girls, blue is for boys. You can't choose anything else. All your toys have to be pink. And gender reveal, all that shit. It's okay. I mean, that's also the way I was raised. That's also everything I thought. So yes, I just want to repeat that because the trans women identify as women, they are women. And if it's a woman's competition, if it's a woman's place to be, then they should be there because they're women. Like, can you imagine if they were like, this is womanhood has nothing to do, or manhood has nothing to do with your private parts. Okay, I feel like I've said that way too many times, but yes, I think they should belong there. And a lot of people are also kind of confused about like, why is there a she, her, him, his, they, them on, people's bios and stuff. That's because some people identify as a she and they want to clarify that. Okay, so for example, I put she and her on my bio because I want people to address me as a she or a her because I identify as a woman. A man would also do the same if they identify as a man. Somebody who, like who doesn't really want to be labeled as either she or her, they can be called they. And I don't want to delve too much into it because we're really just here dealing with, the most basic stuff. But sometimes they can also be like, kind of like put a bunch of queer people in a very broad, like very vague kind of bubble. But I don't think I'm in the position to talk about that because honestly I don't know much about it, and I don't identify as a person who's a they or a them. So maybe one day somebody that will discuss it for you, but that's not where I am right now. So you're probably thinking like, Angel, but you are a female and you identify as a woman. Like, why do you have to do that? Why do you have to put she or her in your bio? That's because, well, again, me being female has nothing to do with my femininity. At the same time, it normalizes the idea that, gender is not the same as sex. Okay? For people who are trans people, it makes it like less stigmatizing for them when people who are cisgender, when I say cisgender, it means that you were born with the same parts as society tells you to perform as. So for example, I am a cisgender woman. I am born with female parts, and at the same time I also identify as a woman. So if cis people do it as well, and people who are transgender, it becomes less of a thing. Like if you just normalize it, it's not something that's gonna be a big deal. Like people aren't gonna assume that it's only about trans people. It just makes things more, it just normalizes things. So I would encourage you guys to put that in your bio. And for some people who put it but don't really understand why they put it, that's the reason. It's just to make a safer space for trans people and destigmatize what I feel like I have to explain what destigmatizes, but like when you destigmatize something, is like you kind of erase, not really erase, but you kind of you make an effort to lessen the discrimination or lessen kind of like the shame, quote unquote shame. But yeah, you when you destigmatize something, you make things more normal, you make things less something to be shamed upon or less taboo. So yeah, that's that. What about sexuality, Angel? What's sexuality? Let's move on to that. Sexuality has everything, or sexual attraction has everything to do with how you feel towards other genders, other people. So for example, you're gay. You're a gay man. Okay, so if a gay man identifies as a man, and this gay, they're also attracted to men. If you're a lesbian, you're a woman who was attracted to other women. If you are bisexual, you like both women and you also like men, and you might also like trans people. So, or maybe that can also fall under pansexual, but I'm trying to make this like as simple as possible. This is like an entire class, like half a class. So I'm trying to like condense it like as much as I can in one freaking podcast. So yes. If you're transgender, it means that your parts were not the same as what's in your mind. So basically, your gender is really like what you identify is in your mind. Your gender is what is socially constructed, as I said. Your masculinity or your femininity. Your sex is your parts. Gender is in your mind. So if somebody identifies as a trans woman, it means that they were born with, I don't know, probably male or intersex parts, and they identify as a woman. Trans people don't necessarily have to have surgery. They don't necessarily need to go through any altercations or anything. If they identify themselves as different from what society has originally assigned them to, then that is what being trans is. So, trans people also don't owe anybody, like if they identify as feminine, they don't owe anybody to be, like hyper feminine or like try to pass as a feminine, like, quote unquote pass as a woman. They don't owe that to you, okay? So if, that's why that's why it's really good to put your, like, especially because, we're in a panorama right now, and it's a digital world, and when you put your pronouns in your bio, you kind of already you tell people the gender that you identify with. So obviously you wouldn't want to misgender someone and call them a he or a she if they're not comfortable with it. There's freaking dogs barking. So much noise. Oh yeah. But anyway, there are people who can literally look like a very stereotypically feminine person, but they identify as they would like to be pertained to as a he or a they. And so yeah, that is what being a transgender is. It's just being like different from being trans is being different from like the parts that you were originally, how do you say this? That society has like embedded on you. So there's that. So for example, a trans man is straight if they like women. Does that make sense? So for example, a trans man, a person who is born a female, transitioned into a man, okay? Transitioned into very masculine parts. They're like, they identified themselves as a man, and they're straight. So if they're straight, it means that they like women. That doesn't make them gay. But see, that's the thing. People think that being trans and being gay is the same thing. Like if they just think that I used to think this way. I used to think that trans is just like a more intense type of gay, which is like a really bad way of understanding it, like a really poor understanding, and I apologize for that. For your sexuality is like a connection between your gender and the gender of somebody else. So for example, let's say for example I am bisexual. So I am a cis woman. I was born with female parts and I identify as a woman, and being bisexual means that I like both people who identify as men, and I also like people who identify as women. So might be like a lot to take in, or especially if this is just like a new topic for you. But yeah, that's basically what sexuality is. So I'm about to end this podcast because it's getting pretty long. So let's do a little recap. So sex is your biological parts. Gender is what you identify with in your mind. Has everything to do with the mind, has everything to do with society. It's socially constructed. You can be a woman, a man, you can be androgynous. I don't want to, make it that shallow, but, basically it's not just limited to being, man or woman, okay? And then your sexuality is your attraction to other people. So it's when you're straight or heterosexual or gay / homosexual or bisexual or pansexual. Those are the sexualities. That is, but not limited to that. There is more, but those are like the most, the simplest ones that I understand, that I can fully explain to you. So yeah, that is a little lesson on gender and sexuality. That way when you are, discussing this to people, you kind of know what to say. You know the difference, and at the same time, I think this is also extremely helpful for people who also don't understand, like, because they don't understand who they are when it comes to their gender and their sexuality. I think that it's very helpful, especially if you're struggling with that and you feel like, oh, I'm I feel like I'm gay, but also I'm still a man. I still identify as a man, and like you don't understand, like it's nice to have somebody to actually explain things to you, especially if you're in like a more how do I say this, conservative, a little bit more close-minded environment. So that's just my way. Obviously, if you guys can go do your own research about this stuff, but I hope that this was helpful, and I hope that this was also helpful for you to. I hope this also helps you become more aware and respectful and vigilant when it comes to people's genders and how they identify as. So that's what it is. I hope that I explained this. I tried to explain this the best that I could. But yeah, thank you guys so much for watching or slash listening. Please subscribe to my channel. If you don't, you're probably homophobic, transphobic, and misogynistic. That is just facts, because if you're offended by this, then it says a lot. Anyways, thank you guys so much for listening. Subscribe or follow or do whatever it is on whatever device you're listening to this from. And thank you guys so much. I don't know how to do outros.
The wonderful, beautiful podcast.